Hello everyone, welcome to Inain's Forensic Classroom. I'm Inain and I'm here to take you on an exciting journey into the world of forensic science, the real science behind solving crimes, uncovering evidences, and delivering justice. So in the last video, we've discussed what forensic science is. So let's have a quick recap of the definition of forensic science. Forensic science can broadly be defined as the scientific discipline directed to the recognition, identification, evaluation, and individualization of the physical evidence by applying the principles and methods of natural sciences for the purpose of administering criminal justice. So forensic science was derived from the Latin word forum, which means public. So in this video, we'll be dealing with the history of the forensic science. So during the session, I'll also write down some important keywords. Please take notes, or you can also take screenshot of the slide if it helps you to learn better. So the roots of the forensic science can be traced back to the ancient Greek and Roman civilization. Ancient Greek and Roman civilizations, which actually brought the great advances in the field of various disciplines of the science, including the science that's associated with the criminal investigation, which we call as forensic science. So in the earliest times, the method of killing the human being was poisoning. So poisoning was the earliest method of killing a human being, and the widespread knowledge was gathered regarding the production and the use of these poisons. So the symptoms that caused by various poisons were identified, making it possible to detect their use in the previously undetected murders. Now if we talk about the first recorded autopsy, it was conducted by the Roman physician Antistius in 44 BC, and it was also done on the body of the king Julius Caesar. So Julius Caesar was killed, and when the conclusion was drawn, it was thought that the king was stabbed 23 times, but only one wound that was through his chest caused his death. Now, at the beginning of the 17th century, also which was also known as the Age of Enlightenment, advances in the science came into light. Advances in science and the awakening of the social conscious, that also resulted in the interest in the field of forensic science. So further, when we come to 18th and 19th century, when we come at the 18th and 19th century, we see that it was observed that the contact between someone's hands and the surface barely leaves some marks, which we call as fingerprints. So in order to identify these fingerprints, the fine powder dusting technique was also invented in order to make these marks more visible. So when we go back to 1880, the modern fingerprint identification technique was developed when one British scientific journal, Nature, published a letter from the Englishmen Henry Faulds and William James Herschel. What they did was they disclosed the characteristics of uniqueness and permanence of fingerprints. So these observations were also verified by the English scientist Sir Francis Galton. So Sir Francis Galton, what he did was he found the uh, first classification system. And this classification system was based on grouping the fingerprint patterns into arches, loops, and whorls. So this Galton system was also improved later by one London police commissioner, Sir Edward R. Henry. So together it was known as Galton-Henry system of fingerprint classification. So when we talk about Galton Henry fingerprint classification. It was given on the basis of three characteristics of the fingerprint, which is arches, loops, and whorls, and it was published in 1901 at the Scotland Yard. It is the most widely used system of classification even today. But surprisingly, while the use of the scientific methods and the techniques in criminal investigation in some manner or the another has been around since before the Roman Empire, the idea of the forensic science as a discipline has only been here like hardly 100 years old. It has only been within the last century that the law enforcement agencies and the court system have actually come to rely so heavily on the use of scientific practices in the crime scene investigations. So, throughout the history, there exist examples of analysis of various pieces of evidences that leads to the convictions and that seem to fall in line with what we know, and we recognize that as the forensics. So the most significant advances, however, has been emanated from the independent works of the Henry Folds and William Herschel. So these scientists in their works, they gave the detail of the uniqueness of the fingerprints, human fingerprints, and their potential use in identifying people. So which basically is leading to the codification and standardization of the accepted practices within the forensic science. So this was the outline of the history of forensic science. Thank you so much. If you found this video interesting, give it a like, share it with your fellow forensic enthusiasts, and don't forget to subscribe to Inain's Forensic Classroom. If you have any questions, suggestions, or you're just curious about some topics that you want me to cover, please drop them in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, keep observing, keep questioning, and remember, every clue tells a story. See you soon. Bye bye.